Today, I'm making an age-old classic dish in my home and in American diners throughout the US, corned beef hash. I'm not talking about the overly processed and extremely salty stuff out of the can, which I am guilty of having a time or three in my lifetime, and I have to admit, I've actually enjoyed it. But I'm talking about homemade corned beef hash, nothing out of a can. This is not only homemade corned beef hash, but it's low-carb corned beef hash. So if you're on a low-carb diet or live in a low-carb lifestyle, you can now enjoy corned beef hash too. It's really simple to make, so let's get started. Here I have a 3-pound piece of corned beef brisket. This is a point cut, which I prefer because it has more fat, and more fat equals more flavor. But you can use a flat cut if you like. I have it in a pot of cold water that I'm going to bring to a boil, cover, reduce the heat to medium-low, and let it simmer for 3 to 3.5 hours or until it's tender. After 3.5 hours, it's done. See how easy the probe slides in and out? Now trim off the excess fat. Now you can cut it up like I'm going to do just by cutting it into slices and then into cubes, or you can be more traditional and get all Frenchy with it and haché it, which simply means to chop it. I like to leave it a little bit chunkier, plus it's going to break up a lot as you cook it because it's really tender right now. For a full printable copy of this recipe and many more, visit thewolfpit.com. Here's a fact that I bet very few people knew or cared about. September 27th is National Corned Beef Hash Day. You can thank me very much in the comments for that factoid. Now once all the corned beef is cut up, set it aside. Since I'm making low-carb corned beef hash, I'm not using any potatoes. I'm using a daikon radish instead, which has 2.5 net carbs per 4 ounces compared to 15 for potatoes. If you're not watching your carbs, do the same recipe with russet potatoes. Now simply take a vegetable peeler and peel the daikon radish like you would a carrot. And now cut them into 1/4 to 1/2 inch slices. Now cut those pieces into strips. Now spin it around and cut it into cubes. I never tried a daikon radish, so I wanted to taste a piece raw. It didn't taste anything like a radish, more like a mildly sweet mix between a potato and a pear without the starch. A real nice clean taste. Now I'm adding salt to a pot of boiling water. Now add the cubed up radish, and then let them boil for about 10 to 12 minutes or until fork tender. Now drain very well. Now in a large cast iron skillet over medium heat, add the corned beef and chopped yellow onion. Give it a quick mix. Add the daikon radish. Now give it all a good mix. Now let's season it up a bit with some black pepper, a little granulated garlic, and a little bit of salt. And you really want to go easy on the salt because of the salt in the corned beef. Now give it all a good mix. Now firmly pack it all down into the pan. We want to make sure it all has good contact so we can start forming a nice crust. And then add several pats of butter and let everything sit there for about 5 minutes and do not touch it until the butter's melted. After 5 minutes, flip it all over. Then press it down again and let it go for 5 more minutes. I did this 4 times and it was plenty for me, but you can continue the process until it gets as nice and golden brown as you like. There you have it, homemade corned beef hash, done the low carb way. But like I said, if you're not worried about carbs, the recipe is exactly the same with russet potatoes. As far as I'm concerned, the daikon radish work great as a potato substitute in the corned beef hash. But I don't think they'll work as well in other recipes as substitutions for potatoes. I think it all depends on the recipe. By looking at them, you can't tell they're not potatoes, but they don't taste much like potatoes like I heard they do. And that's not necessarily a bad thing unless you are really expecting them to taste like a potato. When they were raw, they were mildly sweet, like a mix between a pear and a potato. But when they were cooked, the peppery radish flavor came through and the texture was not starchy like a potato. They were very good. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you give this a try. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.